9 months ago, my husband Tate came home one night and confessed to me that he was having an affair. Apparently, he had been sleeping with one of his interns from his company, as if that wasn't devastating enough. He went on to tell me that she was pregnant with his child. Those words hit me like a truck. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room, leaving me gasping. I couldn't think. I couldn't move. It was like my entire life had been flipped upside down in an instant. You see, I'm barren. I've always known that I cannot have children. It's something I came to terms with a long time ago. In fact, I never even wanted children. Motherhood was never a dream or a goal I held on to. When I first met Tate and we began dating, I was completely upfront with him about my condition. I didn't hide it or sugarcoat it. I told him the truth, plain and simple. And back then, he seemed to understand. He told me he didn't want children either, that he was perfectly fine with a life where it would just be the two of us. I believed him. I trusted his words. When I met Tate's family for the first time, it was clear they didn't like me, especially his mother. She made her dislike for me obvious. I was everything she couldn't stand in a woman. I had a career, I was independent, and to top it off, I didn't want children. Values that seemed to clash entirely with her worldview. From the very beginning, my mother-in-law resisted the idea of me becoming a part of their family. She excluded me from family gatherings as though pretending I didn't exist would make me go away. And whenever Tate tried to include me in events or bring me along, she would argue with him and shame him for being with someone like me. One instance that still stings happened when Tate brought me to his cousin's engagement party. By that point, we had been dating for 2 years, so I thought I had earned a place in their family circle. Many of Tate's cousins and other relatives had heard about me or seen pictures of us on social media, but they had rarely met me in person. When I arrived, his extended family was polite and made an effort to get to know me. They asked me questions, made small talk, and treated me warmly enough, but not mother-in-law. She spent the entire evening making backhanded remarks and dropping hints that she hated my presence at the party. At one point, she started gushing about Tate's cousin and her fiancé, talking loudly about how lucky they both were to have found each other. She called their relationship perfect and pointedly looked at Tate and me, emphasizing how important it was to find someone who was truly compatible. Her tone made it clear that she didn't think I fit that description when it came to her son. She kept saying things like, "I just hope my son finds someone just as perfect for his needs soon." As you can imagine, her comments made everyone uncomfortable, including Tate's cousin, who tried to stand up for me. The cousin looked at mother-in-law and reminded her that Tate had already found someone. Me, and how we had been happily dating for a while, but mother-in-law brushed it off with a dismissive laugh, saying, "Well, nothing is set in stone. They're just boyfriend and girlfriend now. There's still time for him to find someone much better than her." Hearing those words was humiliating and infuriating. Just boyfriend and girlfriend. Tate and I weren't some casual fling. We were literally living together by this point. We had built a life together, a home. Her words made it clear that in her eyes, none of that mattered. I couldn't take it anymore. I got up to leave the party. I didn't make a scene or draw attention to myself. I told Tate he could stay if he wanted because I didn't want to ruin his cousin's engagement celebration. But I couldn't stay there another minute. I called for an Uber and left quietly, choking back tears the entire ride home. Later that night, when Tate came back, I thought he would understand how I felt. Instead, he was furious with me for leaving the party without him. He told me his cousins had informed him about what his mother had said. But he felt it wasn't reason enough for me to just leave. He kept saying how I would grow a thicker skin and not be affected by words so easily. I argued that what his mother had told me was degrading and disrespectful. However, Tate brushed it off and went on to say that he had talked to his mother and she told him I had just overreacted. According to her, it was just a harmless comment and that she had been a bit tipsy and didn't realize I would be so sensitive about it. That was the final straw for me. I told Tate exactly how I felt. His mother knew exactly what she was saying, and it wasn't the first time she had treated me this way. From the day we met, she had been cold, dismissive, and outright rude. She had never shown me the slightest bit of respect. She didn't include me in Christmas or New Year's celebrations, or even in their family vacations. She constantly acted as if I wasn't good enough for her son. I reminded Tate of all the ways she had excluded me and made me feel unwelcome over the years. This wasn't a one-time slip-up or a harmless remark, but it was part of a pattern, a long-standing behavior designed to belittle me and make me feel like I didn't deserve to be part of their family. I told him point blank that his mother needed to get over herself and start treating me with the respect I deserved. I wasn't just some random woman he was casually dating. We were serious about each other. We shared a home and were building a future together. If I was important to him, he needed to make that clear to his mother. I wasn't going to continue being disrespected and treated like I didn't matter. It was time for him to stand up for me and make her understand that I wasn't going anywhere. Tate was hesitant at first when I insisted he address the situation with his mother, but after seeing how clear and firm I was, he eventually spoke to her. Unfortunately, the conversation didn't lead to an apology. Instead, she doubled down, adamantly insisting that he should break up with me and find someone more suitable. After that, Tate and I made a mutual decision. I would no longer engage with his mother unless it was absolutely unavoidable. From then on, we spent Christmas and family vacations with my side of the family instead of his. On the rare occasions when I did attend his family's events, Tate made it a point to keep his mother at a distance from me, shielding me from her negativity. It wasn't always an ideal arrangement, but it at least allowed us to create boundaries and maintain some semblance of peace. Despite this rocky relationship with his mother, Tate and I moved forward in our relationship. We got married, and the past 4 years of our marriage have been wonderful. We're not just partners, we're best friends. When Tate wanted to start his own business, I was right by his side. I believed in him wholeheartedly and used all my savings to help him and his business partner get off the ground. It wasn't easy, but we worked hard together to build something meaningful. Over time, he repaid every penny, and we continued to build our life together. We bought a house, set up a solid financial foundation, and started saving for our retirement. For years, I thought our marriage was rock solid. I never had a single doubt about our commitment to each other. Then, 9 months ago, everything changed. Out of the blue, Tate confessed to me that he had been having an affair. It was devastating enough to hear that he had betrayed me by sleeping with someone else, but the situation was even worse. His affair partner was now pregnant. And to my surprise, Tate seemed genuinely excited about it. He told me how, at first, the news of the pregnancy scared him, but now he had come to terms with it and was embracing the idea of becoming a father. I was furious and felt completely blindsided by Tate's confession. My parents were livid when they found out too. They couldn't believe the man I had built a life with had done something so devastating. On the other hand, Tate's family unsurprisingly, tried to defend his actions. While some of them did have some sympathy for me, most of them took his side and were bending over backwards to try to justify his behavior. In the end, I filed for divorce from him. He moved out of our home and, to no one's surprise, found a place to live with his affair partner. Watching everything I had built with him crumble while he moved on so easily was like twisting a knife that was already buried deep in my heart. The divorce process was draining, but what made it so much worse was his mother. She didn't even try to hide her disdain for me. She flaunted it for the whole world to see. One day, while we were still in the process of finalizing the divorce, Tate's mother shamelessly posted on her Facebook page about how she was finally going to have her perfect daughter-in-law and how proud she was of her son for giving her a grandchild. She didn't care how much her words hurt or how inappropriate it was to celebrate a situation that had caused so much pain. Some of her family members did call her out in the comments. They told her she was being utterly cruel, pointing out that Tate had cheated on me and how heartless it was to post something so insensitive while we were still going through a divorce. But instead of reflecting on her actions, my mother-in-law doubled down. She fought tooth and nail in the comment section, defending her son's actions and justifying her own behavior. She argued that she was glad Tate was leaving me because, in her words, I wasn't even woman enough to give him children. She wrote that I was never a suitable match for him and that she felt his affair partner was a much better fit for her son than I had ever been. Her words were vicious, cutting, and hateful. Reading her comments felt like being punched in the gut. It was one thing to deal with the betrayal of my husband, but to have his mother publicly humiliate me and attack my worth as a person was another level of pain. It only solidified what I already knew. I was better off without any of them in my life. Eventually, Tate and I finalized our divorce, and I've moved on with my life now. I blocked him on every platform, cut off all contact, and never felt the urge to check up on him. There's no room for someone like him in the life I've rebuilt for myself. Occasionally, he still tries to reach out via email. Every so often, I'll get a message where he says he misses me or reminisces about our time together, only to follow it up the next day with another email claiming he was too drunk and didn't mean to send the previous email. Whatever the case, I've never bothered replying back to him. Just last week, one of Tate's cousins reached out to me. Despite everything that happened, some of his cousins have always been kind to me. They check in on me occasionally, and I appreciate their gestures. This particular cousin told me that Tate and his affair partner had finally welcomed their child born out of their affair. She mentioned how Tate's mother was absolutely over the moon and was going around gushing to everyone who would listen about her new grandchild. However, it seems the rest of the family hasn't been so quick to celebrate. According to the cousin, many of them are still upset with Tate and haven't forgiven him for the way he handled things or the hurt he caused me. I listened to what she said, but felt nothing. I've moved on from that chapter of my life, and I'm no longer interested in the drama surrounding Tate or his family. I told her as much and reassured her that she and the rest of the family should do what they feel is right, regardless of the affair. The child is innocent and deserves love and support from the family. I've made my peace with what happened, and while I'll never condone Tate's actions, I don't wish ill on the baby or anyone else involved. Life is too short to carry grudges or dwell on the past. Then, cut to today, Tate sent me another email, and this one was unusually long. In it, he wrote that he had been thinking about us and wanted another chance with me. He continued to write how even after our divorce, he has still been in love with me and has not yet moved on. Reading it left me completely taken aback. How could he possibly say these things now? He just had a baby with his affair partner. As usual, I just rolled my eyes and ignored the email. There was no point replying to him. But not even an hour later, I got a DM on my Instagram. Now, I've blocked Tate on all platforms, including Instagram, but apparently he has made a second account and sent me a message request through that. The message was desperate, practically begging me to unblock him on my phone so that he could talk to me. He claimed there was something very important he needed to tell me. What was most frustrating, though, was how he was trying to guilt trip me, saying I was being really cruel by not replying to his multiple attempts to reach out. At this point, I don't know whether to laugh at his audacity or feel angry at his lack of respect for my boundaries. He's the one who made the choices that led us here. He's the one who shattered the trust between us. Yet now, after everything, he's trying to paint himself as the victim, as though I owe him my time, energy, or forgiveness. Honestly, it's unnerving. AITA if I don't reply back to my ex after everything he's put me through? Update 1. When I came on Reddit to ask for advice, I didn't mean that I was seriously considering replying to him. Deep down, I already knew I didn't want to. After everything he's done, it's obvious to me that responding to him would be a mistake. But I guess because he's been trying so hard to reach out, between the long emails and now the Instagram message, it made me stop and question myself for a moment. A tiny part of me wondered if maybe, just maybe, I should hear him out. Maybe there was something important he needed to say. However, after reading all the comments here, I've been reminded of exactly who my ex is and the endless red flags he's shown me over the years. Your responses have been a wake-up call, reinforcing what I already knew in my heart. There's no reason to give him the time of day. Tate has shown me through his actions that he doesn't respect me, my boundaries, or the life I've built for myself since our divorce. Why should I give him the opportunity to pull me back into the mess he created? I've decided to do what I always do in these situations: ignore him. I'll block his new account, just like I've blocked everything else he's used to try and contact me. If he creates another account, I'll block that too. I refuse to let him manipulate me into giving him even a second of my time or energy. My life has moved on, and so have I. It's time for him to accept that and stop trying to drag me back into his drama. Update 2. It's been 2 weeks since my last update. Take out your popcorn and sit down to read, because the update I have here is going to blow all your minds. Turns out that Tate's affair partner, yes, the same woman he threw everything away for, was cheating on him too. And that baby she got pregnant with, it isn't even his. When the baby was born, Tate started noticing that the child didn't have any of his features. Something didn't sit right with him, so he decided to get a DNA test just to be sure. Turns out his suspicions were spot on. The baby is not biologically his. I can only imagine how he must have felt at the moment. All that excitement about becoming a father, all the sacrifices he made, all the bridges he burned, and for what? A lie? And let's not forget about his dear mother, the self-proclaimed queen of gloating. She had been strutting around, bragging to anyone who would listen about how she was finally getting her perfect daughter-in-law and her first grandchild. She had plastered her social media with posts celebrating the pregnancy and the upcoming addition to their family. But the moment the truth came out, she was left with nothing but sheer embarrassment. She quietly deleted every single pregnancy announcement and baby-related post from social media. Honestly, the whole thing is laughable. Now, it makes perfect sense why Tate has been so desperately trying to reach out to me lately. He's realized just how stupid he was to leave me for someone who not only betrayed him, but lied to him about the paternity of her child. He divorced me, moved out, and thought he was trading up for a better life, only for it all to come crashing down around him. It's almost poetic, really. He acted like a clown, and now he's left with nothing but his own circus of poor decisions. Meanwhile, I'm over here living my life free of his drama and nonsense. It's like karma worked overtime, and honestly, I can't even feel sorry for him. Anyways, I found out about everything that's been going on from Tate's cousin, who was happy to share the news with me. She told me how she and the rest of the family have been having a bit of a laugh at Tate and his mother's expense. Everyone feels like they're getting exactly what they deserve. They treated me horribly, and now it's all coming back to bite them. Meanwhile, Tate hasn't stopped trying to worm his way back into my life. Just today, I got another email from him. This time he wrote about how he wants to take me back and that he would do anything to fix things between us. He's been begging me for another chance, but now that I know the truth, his supposed child isn't even his, it all clicked. He isn't sorry because he realized how badly he hurt me. He's sorry because he's embarrassed by his dumb actions and has nowhere else to turn to. This time, I wanted to reply back to him. I wanted to have a last laugh. I couldn't let him think he could just waltz back into my life after everything he's done. So I wrote to him, calling out how ridiculous his sudden apologies were. I told him I knew exactly what had happened, that the baby wasn't even his, and how I knew that was the real reason he was trying to crawl back to me. I told him that I don't pick up any trash once I've thrown it away, and that's exactly what he was, something I discarded in the past, and I had no intention of picking it up again. I also told him that he and his affair partner deserved each other. They had made their bed, and now they were going to have to lie in it. In the end, I wrote that he needed to stop reaching out to me, as I was getting tired of seeing his name pop up when I wanted nothing to do with him. It honestly made me laugh that after everything he had the audacity to think I'd want him back. Since I left Tate, my life has been 100 times better. There's been no more stress, no more lies, no more toxic drama. I'm finally living the life I deserve, and I'm not going to let him or his family pull me back into their chaos. Tate and his mother deserve every bit of humiliation they're going through right now. They put me through hell, and now it's their turn to deal with the fallout of their actions. Update 3. Guess what? After I sent out that reply to Tate, my ex-mother-in-law tried to reach out to me. The same woman who spent years brushing me off and making me feel invisible suddenly reached out to me. Yes, that woman, who could never be bothered to show me respect when I was with her son, was now calling me wanting to talk. She actually had the nerve to call me and tell me how sad Tate is right now after finding out the truth about the paternity of the child. She went on to say that he's become even more depressed now that he's seen how I've rejected all his attempts to come back to me. I didn't even let her finish her little speech. I interrupted her and made it clear that it wasn't my problem whether Tate was happy or sad. I told her straight up that she had no right to call me and tell me about all this. Why should I care about his feelings after everything he and his family put me through? This is when ex-mother-in-law started to argue that Tate had always been in love with me and that she was wrong for never realizing it sooner. She even went as far as begging me to consider meeting up with him to see if we could rekindle anything between us. It was almost laughable the way she was trying to play the role of a concerned mother after years of treating me like I didn't matter. I nearly wanted to puke hearing all of this from her. How could she have the nerve to reach out to me now after everything? She and Tate both thought they could just waltz back into my life after everything they'd done, as if I'd forgotten all the disrespect, all the hurt. Honestly, I didn't even know how to respond to her. It's like they truly think they can manipulate me with their guilt trips, but I'm not falling for it. I don't need their drama or their attempts to rewrite history. They can deal with the mess they've made without me. I told her in no uncertain terms that she had some serious audacity to talk to me about Tate's feelings when she was, by far, one of the biggest threats to my peace. I reminded her of how, for all those years, she dismissed me, treated me like I didn't even exist, and never accepted me into her family. She was the last person who should be telling me to go back to her son, no matter what he was going through. Of course, she tried to argue, claiming that she was always felt like Tate could do better, but now she'd realized her mistakes. She went on and on, apologizing over and over again, saying that only I made her son happy and that she was truly sorry for everything she'd done. It honestly made me sick. After years of disrespect, now she was suddenly trying to act like she cared. It was all too little, too late. I couldn't help but scoff at her apology. I told her I was glad she had finally mustered up the courage to apologize. A word she had never been willing to say to me before, but honestly, it didn't matter anymore. I made it clear that I was done with her and done with her son. I had moved on with my life, and I wasn't going to let them drag me back into their mess. Tate needed to find someone else to be his partner because I wasn't going to be his patsy anymore. I was done. At this, my ex-mother-in-law called me an a-hole because I was refusing to take Tate back. She tried to argue that I should be glad that he was man enough to take responsibility. According to her, it wasn't his fault that his affair partner duped him. I couldn't help but laugh at how delusional she sounded. I told her in no uncertain terms that Tate deserved everything that happened to him, and I was honestly glad that the woman had used him in the way she did. He got exactly what he had coming. Of course, she tried to argue further, still trying to manipulate me into feeling sorry for Tate and thinking that he had somehow changed. But at that point, I was done listening to her. I just cut the call and blocked her. I wasn't going to waste another second on her or her son's drama. Since then, Tate hasn't stopped trying to reach out to me. He's been sending me messages from a bunch of new accounts, begging me to at least hear him out. Apparently, he thinks I'm being some sort of jerk for deliberately ignoring him, but the truth is, I've heard enough from him. I don't owe him any more explanations or time. The nerve of him to think I'd even consider going back after everything he's put me through is beyond me. I'm not interested in his apologies or whatever realization he thinks he's had. He made his choices and now he can deal with the consequences. Update 4. My ex showed up at my place yesterday, drunk in the middle of the night. At around 2 a.m., I was woken up by the sound of my doorbell ringing repeatedly. I had no idea what was happening, but when I opened the door, I was shocked to see Tate, belligerent, stumbling and crying on my doorstep. He kept telling me how happy he was to finally see my face after so long. He then started asking me why it was so easy for me to move on from him when he couldn't even sleep without thinking of me every night. All in all, he was an emotional wreck, and it was honestly pathetic. I repeatedly told him to leave, but he just kept pushing, saying he wanted to talk and that he wanted to come in. I made it clear I needed him to leave before he caused the scene in front of my neighbors, but of course he wouldn't listen. He kept trying to insist that he had the right to be there as my ex-husband and that we needed to sort things out. At that point, I had no choice. I couldn't let him continue to stand on my doorstep causing trouble. I called the police. The officers showed up and, after talking to him, they ended up arresting him. It was honestly a little surreal, but I wasn't going to let him get away with harassing me in my own home. I never wanted things to escalate like this. But I had to protect my peace, and Tate needed to understand that his behavior was not going to be tolerated. Then I woke up this morning to multiple messages from my mother-in-law where she's basically cussing me out. She's blaming me for everything her son is going through. At this point, I'm getting really fed up with their behavior, and it's clear they're not going to stop. I feel like I need to seriously take legal action. I've been thinking about talking to a lawyer to explore the possibility of getting a restraining order against Tate. His behavior is getting more out of hand, and I don't feel safe anymore. He's shown up uninvited and harassed me in person, and now I have his mother trying to blame me for everything that's happened. It's exhausting. And it's clear that they won't respect my boundaries unless I take a firmer stand. I'm also going to order security cameras for my place. I need to make sure I'm protected, especially with how aggressive and persistent they both are becoming. I shouldn't have to live in fear of this mother and son duo showing up or causing problems. It's frustrating that it's come to this. But I'm going to do what I need to do to ensure my peace and safety moving forward. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.